All right, let's start with the two basic types of selections, and that's manual and automatic. The manual selections are these top two right here. We've got the rectangle, ellipse, single column and row, or the lasso tools. So for example, with this quarter, we can start with the ellipse tool, and you can click and drag and try to get a nice circle there. But there's a much easier way, so I'm going to Control D, deselect. So as you're making a selection, if you don't like it, you can always just Control D, and that gets rid of the dancing ants. Okay, if you start from the center of an object and start clicking and dragging and then hold Alt down, it makes a selection from the center. And so that's going out now from the center. And then if I hold Shift down, it forces it to be proportional, so I can get a really pretty good selection around this quarter. So that's a manual selection. Now what do you do with it once you've got it selected? There's lots of different things that you could do. For example, one keyboard shortcut that I love basically takes whatever you have selected and puts it onto its own layer, and that's Control J. And you can see over here on my layers palette now I have two layers, and if I grab my move tool, I can move this quarter, maybe hold Shift down and resize it, and I can have, it's on its own layer. I'm going to go ahead and check mark that or hit the Enter key. Another keyboard shortcut that I like to show when you're playing around with objects is to hold Alt down and drag it. That's a great way of making a copy. So make a couple copies of this quarter now that you've practiced it. So that's one way of doing a manual selection, and that's just using the marquee selection tool. All right, on the web page I gave you a link to a box, so hopefully you downloaded that. I'm going to Control 0 to automatically fit it to my window. And now I want to show you the lasso tool. Now the lasso tool is really hard. If you try to drag around this, it's going to be really hard to get a nice straight line. So let me undo that. The keyboard shortcut was Control D to deselect. The lasso tool that I really like when I'm doing a manual selection is this polygon lasso tool. If your object has hard straight edges like this box, it's great. And this is a click once, and then you hold, or you don't hold the mouse, you just click and let go, and then you stretch this out, and then you go ahead and click once. And so I'm just clicking at each of the corners around the box. Now if you accidentally double click, it's going to finish the selection. See how that did that? So I'm just going to undo that again and start again. So undo is Control Z. All right, or you can Control D to deselect. Okay, and when you get down to the last part of it, you'll notice that your cursor has a little circle next to it, and that's going to finish the selection. So let me try that. Control J, put a box on its own layer. And let's move that box out here so we can have a couple boxes. And remember, holding Alt down, oops. Oh, I have to finish the move and resize, and then hold Alt down, and I can make as many boxes as I want. And each one of those boxes is up here on its own layer. So those are the basic manual